And we have breaking news this morning from President Donald J. Trump, the 45th president of the United States, sitting down with me and sounding off on the state of the economy, politics, importantly telling me he will not reappoint Jay Powell to the Fed should he be reelected. Watch. Mr. President, you met with the Teamsters Union. I want to take you back to the U.S. What did you hear from the Teamsters Union? Why did the UAW decide to support President Biden?
Well, I never spoke to UAW. They're a hopeless case. They've led their industry right into the poorhouse, and now they've finished it off because if Biden gets elected, you won't have an auto worker working in the United States. Everything's going over to China and other countries outside. This electric car mandate is insane. They don't go far, they cost too much, and they're going to be made in China because they have the material to make it. We have a thing called gasoline. We have oil and gas. We have gasoline. And that's what people want for the most part. Now, I'll say this. If you want to buy an electric car, you should be able to. But if you want to buy internal combustion, if you want to buy a hybrid, you should have everything for sale. Right now, they have tens of thousands of electric vehicles for sale. Nobody wants to buy them.
So is this the main issue for the Teamsters?
No, you know what? We didn't even talk about that. You know what we talked about? Nobody's coming into our country illegally, meaning we have a very strong border. I had a very strong border. Millions and millions of people are coming in with Biden. There's not going to be any Teamsters because
they're worried about the border.
Well, I don't know if they're worried, but I told them that, in my opinion, the worst thing they can do is allow Biden to become president again. Frankly, for many reasons, our country won't survive it. Our country cannot survive another Biden presidency. He's incompetent. He's the worst president in the history of our country, and everybody knows it.
This leads me to the economy, Mr. President, because Jay Powell, the Fed chairman, is talking about a soft landing. Do you believe we will see a soft landing?
Well, I think he's going to do something to probably help the Democrats. I think if he lowers interest rates, but you have the potential of having massive inflation again, because the Middle East could drive up the price of energy. Energy has so much to do with it. And the Middle East, again, the bombs are dropping all over the place, and the ships are starting to get hit, and hit hard. If that happens, you're going to have tremendous spikes in the price of oil. And if you do that, you're going to have big inflation. He's not going to be able to do anything. But it looks to me like he's trying to lower interest rates for the sake of maybe getting people elected. I don't know.
So you think he's political? He's just going to cut rates to help Biden, you're saying?
I do. I think he's political, yeah.
So, the Biden team can say, well, if things are so bad, how come the stock market's on a roll?
Because they think I'm going to be elected.
That you think the stock market's rallying because people think you're going to be elected?
I do, yeah. If you take a look at Iowa, if you take a look at New Hampshire, the stock market's been going crazy since then and long before then. When I announced I was running, I took the lead early, and then I beat everybody, including Ron DeSantis. I call him DeSantis now. I took the other names.
Mr. President, back to the economy for a second. Would you reappoint Jay Powell?
No, I wouldn't do that.
You wouldn't reappoint him?
No.
Because he missed inflation?
He did miss, but no, I wouldn't be inclined.
Who's your choice for Fed chairman?
I would have a couple of choices. I can't tell you now.
A lot of news there, Joe Pinion. I want to get your reaction. A potential for massive inflation again. Spikes in oil prices, says the 45th president. Powell may cut rates to help Biden be political. And I won't reappoint Jay Powell to the Fed. Your thoughts?
Well, look, I think Jay Powell has made it quite clear he wants no more inflation on his watch. He does not want that to be his epigraph. I think, conversely, Joe Biden doing everything humanly possible to make sure no recession on his watch. So that tug of war between the spending and the rate cuts a big thing. I think as it relates to President Trump talking about some of those union members, what they want compared to what the rank and file wanted, what we talked about a little bit before the show started, that is the clear divide here. And what those union workers want is the economy that we had under President Trump, 7 million jobs created pre-COVID. What those union members want is to make sure their savings accounts aren't going to get eviscerated, that the people coming across the border aren't going to get better treatment than they do, that people that live in places like in East Palestine don't get the short end of the stick where the president takes a year to show up. So those are the core issues. I think President Trump, in many ways, pretty disciplined there in his message, talking about the things that allowed him to become that force in 2016.
Yeah, but Cheryl, Jay Powell took the prospect of a rate cut in March off the table this week.
Absolutely.
There's not going to be a rate cut in March, maybe May, maybe June, maybe September. I mean, we're getting close to the election. Of course, we're going to hear people say Jay Powell is political. It's exactly what President Trump is saying.
Well, I think it's easy to assume that there is going to be political pressure on Jay Powell going into this. And one of the issues, of course, is inflation, right, Maria? Look, I mean, we found out today, OPEC and OPEC Plus, they're actually leaving those lower production levels in place. So gasoline prices very easily could start to go higher this year. What would help that? What would fix that? Help the consumer, help the economy? A rate cut. So, look, the market, we've talked about this, the market wants more rate cuts than obviously the Fed does. The Fed's the state dependent, but they still telegraph 3. So I think maybe not March, because we heard that, but June, again, political year, it's obviously going to be very tied together, because this is, at the end of the day, going to be Jay Powell's job.
Yeah, don't forget that there are elements right now that are making this a new situation, not like other inflationary times, Rebecca. We've got hostilities in the Red Sea. If those hostilities hit those ships, they have to go around the African Horn. That's more expensive. They pass that on to the consumer, sending oil prices up.
Absolutely. I mean, we haven't seen, Maria, this kind of geopolitical risk at the very beginning of an election year that I can remember in my lifetime, unless we were in the middle of a war, obviously, which that's forever, right? And so those inflationary risks do have to be addressed. And I noticed that there's a global shift that is not maybe necessarily early spring and that it's getting pushed back. You know, the IMF also is talking about, hey, you know, we're going to get cuts, but it'll probably later. The risk is, Maria, if they do it too fast and inflation comes back, then they have to reverse policy immediately, and that makes them look incompetent. So there could be some politics. It's an election year, obviously, but obviously we aren't seeing the normal type of slowdown that we would see, economically speaking, in order to cut rates. And so the market's just pushing it.
I'm betting on June. It's sort of like the Goldilocks of the middle, because anything beyond June is going to be seen as political. If he doesn't do it in June, he can't do it this year.
That's right.
I mean, you know, we're going to talk more about this coming up. You can see my full interview with President Trump on Sunday Morning Futures this weekend, Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern.